Hello everyone and welcome to the Autism Education Trust. This is a short briefing aimed at those working within an educational setting, and it focuses on helping autistic pupils to successfully return to education settings. It's aimed at anybody working within an educational setting, no matter how much direct contact you have with autistic pupils. And that's because our research and our young people's panel have told us how important it is that the whole workforce has a basic understanding of autism and the additional challenges that autistic pupils face. So by the end of this session, we hope that you will be able to understand the areas of difference associated with autism and the impact of these upon transitions, and understand a bit more about how you can help to make sure that these successful transitions happen. So the 4 areas of difference and transitions. We'll look at these 4 areas of differences, especially in the context of transitions. And this will help you to understand why any type of transition, however small or however big, can be very anxiety provoking for autistic children and young people. So autism, areas of difference and difficulties with transitions. At the Autism Education Trust, we believe that everybody should view autism as a difference and not a deficit. Autistic children and young people experience difference in 4 key areas, and these include communication and social understanding. So difficulties with communication and interpreting social cues can mean that an autistic child or young person may not know how to respond or behave in a specific environment, especially if that environment is new or has been adapted. So they're likely to take longer to get to know what's expected of them and to understand the social rules. And until they become familiar with this, they're likely to maybe experience some kind of anxiety. Sensory sensitivities is another area of difference, and the sensory processing differences that many autistic children and young people experience can contribute to the difficulties that are associated with transition, as they may become very anxious about what to expect in a situation, or become very overwhelmed by the sensory stimulus that they're going to be coming into contact with, or when they're in that environment, they may find that hard to cope with. So the prospect of coming into contact with that stimulus can cause distress, and that can lead to anxiety when the child or young person is transitioning from one location to another. And then finally, the difference with processing information and planning for something that's going to happen next. And being in a state of anxiety will hinder the autistic pupil or the child's ability to be able to process information effectively. And as a result, they will have this strong desire to stick what is familiar, so stick to familiar routines. And that's why it's really important that during times of change and transition, we do focus as much on the change as well as the what's staying the same, so that the transition period isn't just about the change, but it's also looking at what's familiar throughout as well. So if the child's classroom has stayed the same, or they have the same teacher, or they're sitting on the same desk, it's really important to share that information in advance. So change or transition of any kind can be particularly difficult for autistic and children and young people. And that's because they can find the world a very confusing place, and they may not know what's going to happen next. They may not be able to predict that, and they may not understand what is expected of them. And as a result, you may see or you may observe some of the behaviours that are listed here. So the person may appear to be disengaged. They may stop working or not engage in working, or become disengaged from the task that you've given them. They may shut down, or they may not be responding to you. You may think that they're being rude, or they may be aggressive, or you may see that they're starting to hurt themselves. Or it may be that they're stuck in a repetitive movement, or they keep asking you the same thing over and over again. And it may appear that they're trying to control the environment, and that may also include the person that's trying to support them. Always remember that an autistic pupil or person who's displaying behaviour that you're finding challenging is not trying to give you a hard time, but they are having a hard time because they're feeling scared or anxious. And they're having these behaviours because they're showing that they're distressed. And you can help by interpreting their behaviour as anxiety or distress, no matter how upset, rude or angry they may appear. Remember that they're feeling overwhelmed and scared. and make sure that you're being kind and respectful. So don't raise your voice or tell them off or shout at them. And always use simple, clear language, which is backed up by visual supports where possible. It's really important that you show empathy and that you're supportive, and only then will you be able to create an environment where the autistic pupil feels safe to learn. And other actions that could help could include making sure that there is access to regular exercise and outdoor space. So autistic pupils are very much likely to benefit from having frequent, regular opportunities to have a break from the demands of sitting and listening and working within a classroom. Make sure that they have safe spaces to go to that are clearly marked, and that they have a means of being able to request that they need to use this space or go for a break wherever possible, and make sure that you're giving them the permission to do so. Make sure that there's some sensory equipment available to that pupil to help them to manage their sensory sensitivities. So you may see an increase in self-stimulatory behaviour characterised by repetitive or restricted movements. For example, you may be able to provide some ear defenders that will block out the outside noise or distractions of the environment, and that can probably help to reduce self-stimulatory behaviour. And always allow additional time to process information. So give additional time when you're giving instructions or information. Allow that additional time for the pupil to process the information and understand what you've said. And especially at the very early stages of transition, make sure that you do give the additional time to spend on focusing on their special interests. So the Autism Education Trust is here to help you to transition autistic pupils back to school during COVID-19 pandemic. We have a wealth of materials on our website at www.autismeducationtrust.org.uk, where you will find a range of materials, including a COVID-19 specific collection of tools for teachers. There's information and strategies about how to support autistic pupils when they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious. And it also features a document about the changes to SEND legislation and some examples of social stories that you may wish to adapt. And there are also some articles by autism education specialists and some of our training partners. So we do hope that you found this briefing useful.